Good evening. Many of you may remember watching the movies The Blair Witch Project and An American Haunting, and many of you may also know that these movies were based upon the original story of the Bell Witch of Tennessee. I don't know about you, but that story just creeps me out. It's spooky enough without the added voodoo of being a true story. I guess that's why so many articles, TV shows, and movies have been made about it. A brief recap of this story can be seen on a signpost near to where the Bell Farm, and yes, there really was a Bell Farm, once stood. It reads, "To the north was the farm of John Bell, an early prominent settler of North Carolina. According to legend, his family was harried during the early 19th century by the famous Bell Witch. She kept the household in turmoil, assaulted Bell, and drove off Betsy Bell's suitor. Even Andrew Jackson, who came to investigate, retreated to Nashville after his coach wheel stopped mysteriously. Many visitors to the house saw the furniture crash about them and heard her shriek, sing, and curse." More popular and complete versions of this alleged true story includes all the mysterious phenomena that occurred from 1817 to 1820 in and around the home owned by John Bell. A strange black beast with the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit appeared in the field, fading away into the shadows when fired upon by John. Odd tapping and scratching sounds would awake the children in the wee hours. Bed covers and pillows were yanked off and thrown to the floor, and the grotesque sounds of someone noisily and wetly smacking their lips emerged seemingly out of thin air. The events quickly escalated, culminating in a series of unprecedented and brutal attacks on the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy. Slapped, pinched, hair pulled, and skin scratched, Betsy suffered more than anyone else in the Bell family. But soon the entity turned its rage to John Sr., Betsy's father. Having found its voice, the entity loudly proclaimed its venomous hatred for John and boldly stated its intention to kill him. Despite the family's determination to keep their strange happenings a secret, the story leaked out, and soon everyone wanted to experience the Bell Witch. General Andrew Jackson, later to be the 7th President of the United States, even journeyed to the farmhouse himself to see what all the noise was about, and allegedly left stating that he would rather battle the entire British Army than face the Bell Witch again. On the morning of December 20th, 1820, following a brief coma, John Bell Sr. died. Upon the family's discovery of the small vial still containing a small amount of mysterious blackish liquid, the voice of the Bell Witch reportedly spoke up and proudly exclaimed, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." She would not allow the family to grieve in peace, and even sang crude drinking songs during the funeral, after which she faded away, her purpose apparently fulfilled to her satisfaction. Now, many news articles today will include most of this and usually end the piece with a statement about how this mysterious case may never be resolved or some such garbage. But the fact is that many have been involved in actual research in regards to this tale and have come up empty-handed while attempting to validate it. The earliest reference to the Bell Witch was a one-paragraph blurb in the 1886 first edition of Goodspeed's History of Tennessee in its chapter on Robertson County. Although it goes into the disembodied voice and pranks pulled upon the family, it is interesting to note that the death of John Bell by the so-called witch and the Andrew Jackson story was not there, and the tale doesn't indicate any first-hand witness statements nor any other evidence or verification. It's just a reporting of an urban legend, nothing more. Another interesting thing is that this was printed a full 66 years after the alleged happening. So where did all the other stuff come from? Well, the story that people most associate with the Bell Witch comes from the published book Authenticated History of the Bell Witch from 1894 by Martin Van Buren Ingram. The reason it's called the Authenticated History is because its author, Martin Van Buren Ingram, reported getting the entire account from the Bell family, specifically from the grandson of John Bell, Alan Bell. But the whole thing stinks of fraud from beginning to end, and the tale from the published accounts are more fanciful than even Hollywood can imagine. I guess that's why some events are left out of the popular myth, because they're just too damn silly. In Ingram's book, which he swore was all true and factual, we see things like one of the Bell slaves coming across a two-headed wolf, and another being confronted by two witches and turned into a mule with a human head. Surely such fantastic events would have shown up in stories from the time of the happenings, but there aren't any. Not one scrap from a newspaper, not one page from any family Bible from the early 1800s exists to even verify the story itself, let alone add any verification of first-hand observations. I believe the entire book is nothing but fabrication by Ingram's imagination, spurred on by the brief article from only 6 years prior to his writing it. And his claim that the grandson had given him the family diary is bogus as hell. Why would the grandson just suddenly decide to give this to Ingram, who was nothing more than an owner of the local newspaper? And what happened to this diary? When asked, Ingram had conveniently misplaced it, and no one but him had ever seen it. Even if it had existed, it was reportedly written by John Bell's son Richard, who wrote the events a full 30 years after the alleged events when he was only 6 years old. So at best, it was a 30-year-old account from a 6-year-old witness. The other hitch in this tale is that every family member, including grandson Alan, was dead before Ingram wrote the book, thus conveniently removing anyone who could have debunked it. Also, everyone who has looked into the Andrew Jackson side of the story had determined it was all pure donkey dung. There are no historical records of any kind that placed Jackson anywhere near to the farm at the time. So, in totality, what we have here are movies and TV shows and articles about a true account from a fictional book written by a local newspaperman who didn't get anything from anybody to validate his fiction, so decided to invent the validation by way of another fictional diary given to him by someone he never met. This is Super Soylent, and thank you for watching.